Welcome to today's Fortress Solution Overview session. Today I'm going to be giving you an overview of the Webdocs Forms Management and Workflow Solution. Today's session is meant to be a high-level overview, so if you'd like to see more after you've watched the overview, you can schedule a live demo with us where we can take you through a more in-depth demo around your different business use cases. The Webdocs Forms Management and Workflow Solution offers companies ways to enforce data collection processes and enforces workflows around the data collection and approval processes. With the Webdocs Forms Management Solution, it gives companies ways to move beyond the paper processes. The solution offers a variety of functionality to help you in all your business use cases. The Forms Management Solution is a plug-in module to the Webdocs Document Management Solution, which we'll be covering towards the end of the demonstration today. Again, the Forms solution is focused around moving beyond the paper processes and streamlining your business workflows. Forms and workflows are easy to create with the citizen-based Forms and Workflow Designer that allows the solution to take the burden off of IT and let departments and power users manage the forms and workflow creation process. Forms have drag and drop controls that can be configured with the Web Designer interface, allowing designers to insert a variety of controls from the pre-configured Forms control palette. Controls like radio buttons, drop-down boxes, text fields, dates, phone numbers, email addresses, and even document upload controls, along with signature controls, can be added to any of your forms. The Webdocs Forms Management also comes with a variety of connectors, like Active Directory and SAML connectors for authentication purposes, form or file system connectors for connecting to file systems, RESTful APIs for doing integration capabilities, the Webdocs Document Management System connector for the secure archive, and database connectors to help you to access and update your data in your databases or ERP system. Forms can be shared via the Webdocs Forms Management portal or linked to your website or existing portal via the Share Form option in the menu. And on the back end, the Webdocs Document Management System provides secure storage for the forms and documents. This provides audit and version control for regulatory and compliance efforts, along with the capability to search for current or historical forms and documents. Now, for today's overview demonstration, I'm going to start with showing you some end results of forms and workflow use cases. And then I'm going to get into the two big questions that I always get asked is, how do I create forms? And then how easy is it to create a workflow with a form? So I'm going to show you a couple of those different areas there from that standpoint. But first of all, forms and workflows can be used in different ways. And I'll be showing you some examples of some of those different ways they can be used. And some of the forms that people work with, might just be ways to be able to access data, like being more of a middleware interface between more of a database or their ERP or application. And then you have some forms that might be more process based and need to do more analytical processes around the data that the forms produce so that decisions can be made off of that information. So being able to have, I'll call it dashboards around some of that information. And then you might have more process-based or multiple form-based processes where users might need to fill out the information, and then you also need to guide the users through that process to get the information, I'll call it cleansed and in a certain way so that you don't have to go do that back and forth process. And then securely store the results for historical and compliance and regulatory purposes. All right, so I'm going to move into the live demonstration here. Now, the forms management system is all web-based. So it is an on-prem solution that it can be cloud-enabled as well. So you can run it in Microsoft Azure or AWS or your environment of choice. So when you do purchase a license, you get that. Now, user IDs and passwords can be Active Directory or SAML based, depending on that connector you're using. And they also can be just forms management based connections as well. So you can log in with your credentials either from your Active Directory or SAML, and then also from just the forms management system to log in and access. Now, when you log in and access in the system, you can get different kinds of capabilities. If you're more of a user that does approval, you're just going to have access to what we call My Tasks. If you're part of a designer function or role inside the system, you're going to have access to create forms inside the system. Now, some of the end results I'll show here. The first one is, more of a form where it might be more around a database retrieval process, right? Or data retrieval process, where hey, I need to enter in a value, and then from that value, I'm going to fill in data into the different form there, and then we could say, you know what, I need to update the phone number, or this needs an approval process, or we can walk this through updating the data in the system and use this as that interface, or we could use this as launch it into a predefined workflow process or approval review process. So there's different ways to be able to do that from that standpoint, to be able to retrieve data or be that middleware process there. Now we also have processes like PO request processes, right? Where in this case, this one is a form and a workflow, right? So this one has a workflow associated to it behind the scenes where it has multiple steps to it, like you see up on top: PO, client, sales review, manager approval, VP approval. And some of this information, so now you can start entering this information in. And the wonderful part about this data that's being collected here now can be used for analytical purposes. So inside of a purchase order process, say that someone wanted to be able to collect this information, you want to say collect the total amount of something, so that I might want to see, what our exposure is, from a business standpoint, from the controller level or finance area of the business. So this form, as it goes around and gets and collects information and signatures and approvals, I can see this data now. So not only the form that's in here, but the workflow that it goes on, we can enforce those different workflow processes like this. And some of this stuff can be conditional here too. So you can say, hey, if it's over a certain amount, it might go down to VP approval, or if it's under a certain amount, it might just go to exit out, right? So there's different things that we can do there from that standpoint to be able to process through. But you can sort of see that's the workflow, and then the forms creation. We'll come back to this here in just a second, but the forms and the workflow are all done through the same interface, so you can actually create forms through the palette and stuff like that, and do different things like that. Now, like I was talking about, that it might be more analytical information you need to get to. So we can actually take this information that we're providing, or that the users are providing in the form, and create one of the new features in version 11 is dashboard capabilities. So we can create dashboards around these different functions to be able to display different sets of data. And this is just an example here, so I can sort of show you some of the different things you can do. But you could have, pie charts and donut charts and line graphs and information here, statuses. Hey, where's everything at? Kind of a feel. What's my outstanding balance? For all the approvals if they went through. You can say, hey, what's in the procurement process? What's my, and you can look at that different layers of volume, right? So you can have different, I'll call it KPI standings in here as well. So it gives you a lot of different features to be able to do some of those analytics on there too. And it's a very easy designer to be able to, same as the forms and workflow designer I'll be showing you, you can create these different kinds of flows and processes. Now the last form here I'm going to show you, this is one of our security and fraud control forms here from that standpoint, but it could be a workflow that it's processing out. It could be, there could be many different things, but it's a form where this one's an incident. I need to get an incident information in here, and I need to be able to do certain things with this process, right? So this is a really powerful form process here to be able to, if someone comes in here, for example, comes in here and says it's a minor incident, right? Maybe it doesn't escalate up, but maybe it's a critical incident. in. So we can escalate, so we can put business rules in process to escalate certain things and do certain kinds of things with the form process and use that with the workflows. Now, these forms, when you deploy these forms are all web browser based, and they're device capable on any device, right? So if it's a desktop or laptop, if it's a tablet device, and you can see what they look like on these different devices. That's a really powerful piece to this testing mode inside of here, is I can see and I can feel what it's going to feel like on these different devices without having these devices in my hands. So that's a nice feature there from that standpoint. Now, to be able to create these workflows and stuff like that, there's different things inside of the application that you can create new workflows, you can create new forms, you can upload forms and workflows in here. So if you have some created on a different system, you can always upload those in here. So it gives you that capability to be able to, some flexibility there to be able to create, upload and create new projects and stuff like that. But it's very simple to when you're inside of designing these forms or creating these, the first thing you do is you create your form itself, right? So there's two different parts. A form technically is a single step workflow. So a form is a single step workflow that goes through here. So you can come into the designer and actually take and create these by dragging and dropping these different controls. So maybe I wanted to have a drop down box up on top. I can put a drop down box. I can configure those different controls down here. So if I want that in the form, or if I want a database driven kind of drop down box. So there's different kinds of controls that you can do, but all the controls inside of here that we create or that you put into your form are configurable for security purposes and for access levels and stuff too. So I can say, you know what, maybe I want to put a section in the form, and I want to secure that section with some security for a certain group or role only sees that. So you do have that capability there with the designer capability to be able to create those different processes there from that standpoint. Now the output of this form is a PDF. When we finish this form at the end, it does go to PDF. But if it is a compliant document, like a government compliant document needs to be filled, we can also do PDF mapping. So we can upload that compliant fillable PDF and then map the data to that as well. And then from a forms workflow standpoint, very similar to the forms design, citizen-based developer again from that standpoint, but it allows users to be able to create these different steps in here, add preconditions. And again, a precondition is like, hey, if I see this form come in and the incident level is critical, then I'm going to jump it right to the investigation or escalate this past something, right, to be able to get this through. So there's different things that we can do to move these things forward inside of the workflows and stuff like that. And then you can do assignments, you can do rejections, you can do escalations in here. So you can say, hey, something sits inside of a step too long. If it's not performed by or performed within a certain amount of time, then you can take an action on it. You can say, hey, I want to reassign it, skip a task. I want to send notifications out to someone, reminders, maybe on a daily basis or every 2 days or something like that from a frequency standpoint. You can set up those different capabilities there from the workflow standpoint. But very easy to create these different workflow steps. And workflow steps can be assigned to users then or anonymous. So if you might have someone coming to a website and filling out a form, you can have them fill out a form and be anonymous, but then go into an internal workflow. So that's pretty common from that standpoint to be able to go back and forth with that. But you can see here from my list of forms, pretty much any kind of form you can create. A lot of times it's ERP-based forms that you can't build into the ERP system or line of business system. So you might want to build something that lives on top of it to be able to collect the data and do that process. So there's different things that you can do there from that standpoint. This is the end of today's overview demonstration. I want to thank you for joining me today and have a great rest of your day.